7:01 to order. I'd like to make a motion to consider approval of the minutes of the committee to hold. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thanks, Cindy. Number 3, discuss comprehensive fee study. Mr. Ritter, are you gonna take that one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this will seem a little bit repetitive because some of this has come forward to the different committees before this, but this is kind of a culmination of those previous fee discussions that we had at the different committees. So just as a background, most of the fees that we're talking about here today haven't been updated in 10, 20 plus years. Most communities kind of every 2 to 5 years you update them just so there's not some huge increases and you keep them in line with the market. Most fees are typically set just to cover some ability of kind of hard or upfront costs. Kind of protects the general fund from private projects. If they don't get completed, there's some communities too that have kind of just started to say, private development needs to cover everything that they're doing. So just quick background there. We are proposing increases to a few fees here. Almost all of these fees are for kind of new development or commercial related fees. The only ones that aren't are for residential variation, which is kind of just to help avoid repetitive or just kind of requests that kind of don't have any merit behind them, as well as kind of stop repetitive requests there, as well as increasing the building permit minimum to $50 just to cover kind of our base level costs for a building permit. So most of these permit fees kind of just cover costs for public notices, public hearings, inspections, utility connection costs, as well as private use of public safety personnel like the fire department for private events. The police personnel costs were not put into this proposal at this time. They will be coming forward, so private use of kind of police services. They're pretty artificially low right now, we know that, so kind of following these fee changes that we're proposing here, that'll probably come before you in the near future as well. Again, most of these fees are kind of subsidized by the general fund at a high level. For kind of each of these fees, we broke it down to community development, public safety, as well as public works, and just kind of compared each one to neighboring communities, make sure we stay competitive, make sure we stay attractive to developers. And again, Public Works Committee, Community Development Committee, and then Public Safety Committee all kind of reviewed their separate fees that were associated with them at different committee meetings. So we're proposing the fee changes that are in your packet become effective January 1st, 2020. That would any permits that are in before that time would still relate to the old fees. Anything that comes in after January 1st would then be the new fee schedule. In addition to the fee increases we've proposed, but kind of as we were looking through this, we kind of found those fees are scattered in a bunch of different codes, the zoning code, the comprehensive code. So to do that, we're kind of proposing a comprehensive fee schedule in our zoning ordinance. So we'll take the fees from the zoning code, the subdivision code. Every section of our municipal code has fees in it. So we're going to take those, put it into one section. That'll kind of help for staff to update those in the future. It also helps with customers, residents, businesses to know where to look for where the fees are. Because right now, we pretty much have to answer those by phone call all the time because our codes, they're pretty scattered throughout the code depending on what fee it is. So these would again just be kind of, we're requesting to draft text amendments so we can lump all our fees into one comprehensive fee schedule. It'll be almost all our fees with the exception of, I believe, the liquor license and the business license fees would come in at a later time. I think both of those departments or groups are looking at their fees kind of wholly, and then once they kind of propose changes or what they want to do with those fees, bring them into the fee schedule at that time, so. But for the most part, this will include anything development-wise, anything with public works, utilities, public safety, any of those fees would be lumped into one ordinance. So at this time, we're just kind of requesting, one, to move forward to change the fees that we had proposed at the different committees and have been recommended by those committees, and then two, to develop a comprehensive fee schedule. That's it.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Anything, Dave, you want to add to that?
Just, again, Dan led the efforts here, a lot of the staff put quite a bit of time into it, and I think as Dan said, you know, this is something that really we should be reviewing every few years, and that is my intention, is assuming it passes, is this would be kind of something that would be before the board every couple years, so you don't have kind of the sticker shock syndrome that you have when you have had increases for a while. But I think even with this, I think the increases are reasonable, but do take into account our costs that have obviously increased in 20 years. So there would be some work in terms of developing the ordinance, I think, because there's probably quite a few code sections that need to be changed. So the goal, though, would be to get it to the board shortly and then have this all go into effect the first of the year.
Thanks, Dave. Trustee Berg, do you have any comments?
I think it's a great idea that, quantifies the labor the staff's using in order to come to, hours and hours of their time for certain projects. So I think it's well worthwhile in due time. Thank you.
Thanks. Trustee Galante?
I feel the same.
Thanks, Dan, and all staff that worked on this. This needed to be done. And thanks, Kimberly, for your help on this as well. Trustee Mueller?
Yeah, sentiment is much the same. I think it's going to be great that it's all in one place. It'll be clear. The only one that I saw that I had a little bit concerned with was the new residential going from essentially 550 to 2192. That was about a 4X increase. I think it's on page 20 of the packet. That one seemed a little high, just in terms of the sticker shock that Dave was talking about. So I don't know if we can phase that one in and kind of get to that over a year or two. And then the only other question I had was, do we anticipate kind of an influx of permits with that deadline on January 1st? Or do we think it'll just be kind of status quo?
Yeah, the 551, I'll say that one's the most artificially low fee in here that I've seen.
Yeah.
Is that 550 actually accounts for every single
Yep.
part of a new residential home is $550. So
Right.
that was kind of the one that we saw that made the least amount of sense, especially in comparison to other communities where it's much higher. So we can look at maybe making that a little bit lower. But I think that we still tried to shoot for something that was kind of below average to avoid that sticker shock. But that 550 was really low. I don't anticipate a large influx. I guess I'll also note with the residential permit too, is some of those, if you do get a large development, those can always be negotiated with a development agreement or annexation or something like that. We don't have too many large subdivision developments anymore. So that's really to cover the cost if someone's rebuilding a new home for plan reviews, electrical inspections, plumbing, kind of engineering. That 550 literally covers all of that. So, but I also don't see, like I said, a lot of permits coming in at one time to try and beat it.
No, I appreciate the explanation. That was the only one that was really shocking to me, so appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I get it, and that's we were trying to find kind of the right level in there, but knowing that it was kind of really low is where it's at right now. So.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Dan. Anything else, Mike?
No, that's it.
Trustee Brennan?
Yeah, no, I'm just, thanks to all the staff for working so hard on this. I know there's a lot of time put into it. The only one that I had a question was for maybe for Chief Reardon. I make just a suggestion on the fire protection sprinkler permit. We're increasing that one to $50 plus 50 cents per sprinkler head. Most of the comparable towns, I think, were around 100. Would you guys, I mean, would $100 be reasonable for that one? Instead of counting every sprinkler head, just to simplify it?
A lot of the communities use like a sliding scale, and that was based on sprinklers. I kept it with the 50 cents per sprinkler head because that's what everybody was accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it was a $50 fee for a permit or 100, that kind of offset that, in my mind, it kind of offset the trying to go to something higher on the sprinkler head.
Mm-hmm.
So we kept it, keeping it at 50, I thought was reasonable.
Okay.
To, whether it's a small job or a big job, it's all right.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Is there any questions?
Anything else, Bill?
No.
Trustee Brady?
Echo the sentiments of my fellow colleagues. It's done a great job. It's been a long time coming, and the staff did a great job in fixing it up, straightening it up. Thank you all.
Clerk Varian, you have anything?
No, nothing yet, thanks.
Next we have, my sheet. Receive comments from the public. Sir, would you like to address the board? Would you like to come up to the mic and address the board, sir?
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, trustees, been a resident of Tunley Park since 1985. And the whole situation that I'm concerned about revolves around taxi marijuana and having marijuana distributed throughout Tunley Park. Well, I don't know if any of you get Epic Times, excellent publication. It's not too well known.
I have a subscription.
Say again?
I have a subscription.
Oh, then you know what I'm talking about. That's good. Well, this was from August 29th, the article, and it's the link between marijuana and psychosis. Not only that, I've had experience firsthand. I was on the Oak Lawn Police Department from 1972 to 78. And as any police officer knows, you run into this continually, especially back in the 70s. And let me tell you, when you run into someone smoking marijuana, and of course you could smell it as soon as you open a car door or anything, they essentially don't have too much control of their intelligence. I mean, they don't do anything that's really smart. One example was we had one individual, we called them barn rats, but they were out distributing marijuana. I mean, it was well known. You'd arrest these people, and of course the courts would release them, just like they do today, not much different. But this one individual, and I've been in houses, one of these barn rats, mice running over the plates, stuff strewn throughout the house. I mean, they're not very neat people. But anyway, he was in his Volkswagen microbus van. Happened, I don't know, about 3 o'clock in the morning. And he was driving around with his lights off. It goes to show how smart these people are. And he was observed by a fellow patrolman, and he crashed into a tree. Well, as anyone knows, Volkswagen microbus doesn't have airbags. It doesn't have anything in the front of the vehicle to protect passengers. And what this did was amputated his legs. He was sitting in a chair that wasn't secure. It was just a regular chair on the driver's side. I mean, this is just one example. I'm sure the chief could give me some examples too. Is that correct, Chief? And, but this goes on, and the problem is, and as a statement goes here, it says, some proponents claim legislation will bring great tax revenue. I can tell you right now, it's going to cause more problems and cost more money than any tax you're going to realize. And not only that, it's a violation of the federal law, but who pays attention to federal laws these days? Let's see, but the tax revenue in states that have legalized marijuana total less than 1% of the state budget. That's not much revenue. Not only that, you probably tie up law enforcement even more, accidents and everything else that's caused by smoking marijuana or smoking marijuana and drinking. Do that quite a bit. But anyway, it goes on, like I said, less than 1% total. Jobs provided are largely retail or administrative positions with minimum wage pay and no benefits, and the industry is far from green with a high carbon footprint of growing marijuana. I mean, I used to fly cash crop. I was Illinois National Guard and U.S. Army helicopter pilot. We used to go up with the state police, and we'd fly around areas, sometimes around north of Kankakee, Peatone, DuPage County. You could see the stuff growing. This was in the 90s. Matter of fact, some patches out in DuPage, I don't even think they harvested that and burned it. It wasn't all that accessible. But they would send in vehicles and then burn the marijuana. And then they picked out people that were distributing it all the time. And if you think you're going to stop these distributors from distributing marijuana, I got news for you. Who wants to pay a tax when you could just buy it from any local individual that everyone's got a connection with? I mean, they're not going to pay the tax. I wouldn't. I'd go out and have that stuff coming up from Mexico, which, what do they say the percent of the THC? Here's an example. Joints in the 70s had 1 to 3 milligrams of THC. Well, if you got New York White, it was a lot higher than that, but that was supposed to be the most potent. The psychoactive component of marijuana and a near equal amount of CBD, I forgot what that acronym stands for, but which is touted for its potent potential in treating seizures. Well, I think there's very little medical value in marijuana, to be honest with you. I think there's some remarks according that stress that. Most joints in Colorado today contain 18 to 25% THC, and much less of the supposedly helpful drug, CBD. So all you're going to go do is create even more accidents, problems, psychotic individuals. I mean, if I would, I'd ban it from Tinley Park. It's federal law that it's illegal, and here we're legal, and our great governor, he's as happy as can be. I'm telling you, you're going to have a lot more problems than you think. But anyway, I just wanted to remark about that. If anyone's familiar with, well, you can get a subscription to Epic Times, but I can tell you right now, you're going to create more problems than it's worth for what little revenue you're going to realize. It's going to cost you more as far as the police being involved, fire department, and everybody else. So that's my remarks for now, and take it into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to address the board? Mr. Miller.
Good evening. Just a couple of points as far as the legalization of marijuana. And no, it's not legal federally, but it is in the state of Illinois. Illinois, I believe, would be the 34th state where marijuana was legal. I know the gentleman spoke to, more car accidents, things like that. And of course, it's a possibility, but we deal with that with alcohol. And whether we sell it here, or it's Orland or Oak Forest or anywhere around us, doesn't mean they're not going to be driving through our town. We may not be selling it, but they still may be driving through our town, so we're still going to be dealing with that anyway. So, I mean, I think that kind of is counterintuitive at that point. As far as CBD, THC, and the medicinal values, there is scientific fact that THC works towards very specific, whether it be diseases, seizures, different things like that, as does CBD. The type of plants are different. It actually gets to be really crazy confusing as far as CBD is cannabis, THC is cannabis, CBD is not marijuana. There's a huge difference in that, so please don't confuse CBD with THC. There's a massive difference with that. I suggest just do your research, and it's a lot. There's a lot of anecdotal information, but there's a lot of scientific information. It is scientifically proven that THC helps people with seizures. It helps to fight cancer. This isn't just stories that people tell. There's scientific fact to it. So let's not also confuse medicinal with recreational. Recreational is it's going to be the same marijuana that is sold medicinally. It's just going to be a lot more expensive to do it recreationally, as well as the tax on it is considerably higher than it is for medicinal. It's going to be all around us. It's here. It's not going away. There's talk that it's not going to be a lot of revenue. I would suggest you look to Colorado, to California, to Washington, D.C., to numerous other states that have had this legal for a number of years, not just a couple of years, but a number of years. I know Michigan was legal this past year. There's a lot of factual information. Don't get caught up in the hype and the scare tactics of, everybody's going to be stoned and crashing their cars. And you need to look to the scientific information, not just anecdotal. I think it's got this real scare tactic around it, and it's ridiculous. It helps people. It's beneficial. It comes from the earth. It's been used for centuries and centuries and centuries for medicinal purposes, and it's finally being accepted. We may say we don't want this in our town now. Give it 5 years. Big Pharma's going to come in and take it over anyway. So for 5 years, let's go ahead and take advantage of this, because it's coming. Big Pharma's going to take it all over, and there's going to be the individual growers, and that's going to be it. So please do your research. That's all I ask. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Reflector, no other comments? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second?
Second.
Thanks, Cindy.
All in favor?